Yeah. Okay. Thank thank you. And I can I you can see my you can see my PPT, right?
Sharply, you can see your face and your PPT.
Okay, fine, fine.
You know where the chat is also, right?
Yes, yes.
Top
Shruti is trying to chat with me.
Yeah, so if she's chatting, just take the questions later on, or you may take the questions at the end or between the session, whichever is feasible.
Okay,
Okay?
okay, okay. Fine.
All the things that we had discussed that day,
Sure.
everything is good.
Okay.
Yes, I can also see the screen now. Yes, your video is also there. So in case you have any problem or query, you can just ping me or Shekhar. We will be there throughout the session. All the best, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Hi everyone. Hello. 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 But nobody can ask questions through voice. Okay. Yeah. And can you see my slides already? Okay. Okay. Fine. Fine. All right. Thank you. So hi everyone. This is Deepak Kumbat, and you can already see my slides. So what we will do is I will start with something very fundamental and that is very current as of now. I'm talking about the COVID crisis, and then I will try and link it with the with how the careers can grow in engineering sectors as well as the finance and engineering, how they can collaborate. Okay. So and you can ask me the questions as we go, and if there is anything, then I can let you answer over the chat, or I will try and answer on the voice so that everybody can understand it better. Okay, fine. So basically, I am going to start. With the first thing, which is work from home. So now that due to the COVID crisis, we have all started working from home, and it has been quite a while. So how does that impact in the industry, the engineering sector, as well as the finance sector, and what does that mean to everybody? So, so to say, this is our first experience of working from home. Not a significant number of people have earlier worked from home. So this is possibly the first experience that they are working from home. And so So it's a very new thing. It is very new thing for us and everybody around, and there is absolutely no preparedness for that. So industry is currently struggling with working from home, and there is a lot of challenges in terms of managing the productivity, in terms of managing the client engagement and the employee engagement. And basically what is happening is we are on a trial and error mode. You see people either working with Teams, Zoom, or maybe other mode of communication, Skype. Some people are even using some of the very local products as well, in order to ensure that they can interact. Because say for example, I have a team of around 200 people, for example, and I have to interact with, say, even 20% of the population in one day. Practically in the office, I could have called all of them on one conference room and could have spoken to them. But now I have to schedule meetings, and then I have to kind of interact with them and do a lot of things. So the dynamics have changed. But the basic question is, are we going to stay with this forever, or are we going to fall back into the normal mode, which we were before March 2020? So my take is, it is not going to be a restart after the COVID crisis is over, and it is going to be a reset. Reset in the terms that we will have to find out newer ways of collaborating with people. So for example, if I am in a finance field and somebody in the engineering field want to get in touch with me to understand the financial information behind what they are doing, and there is a prospective customer that needs to interact with me, we all need to be digitally equipped to kind of interact and collaborate virtually. So what does practically it means that earlier there was a need of travel that has drastically been cut down temporarily because there is no travel possible now, and also that there is a huge thirst on the digital acceleration. So technology any which ways was changing a lot of things earlier, but now it has suddenly accelerated because all you need to do is now to log in and then find a new ways of working. So, and this is not going to be a short term. This is a permanent change, because the pandemic has made us realize that a lot of things which we thought that virtually cannot happen is now actually possible. People, in fact, has gone to the extent where organizations are talking about, why do we actually need a headquarters? So headquarters for any organization was a big thing. And Sorry, somebody has put a message that put on a PPT mode, so I am doing that. But that ways I can't see the screen and messages, so I will leave with you. Will leave with it. What it has done now is people are talking about the headquarters does not exist anymore, because headquarter used to be a very important thing for an organization, and it used to be like a fort. Uh, then everybody used to visit there, the management, the local management, the global management, everybody used to get there. There is a hush hush around it, and then we need to talk, and there was a lot of meetings around it. But now with the virtual world, do we really need a headquarter? Because everybody is based out of their local location, and they can still interact like we are doing currently. And there are board meetings which are happening over the virtual platforms. There are annual general meetings which are happening over the virtual platforms. So what we thought earlier or what was the perception that it is important to have physical presence have diluted to a large extent because of this COVID issue. Every pandemic brings in something or the other and innovation, and this pandemic has told us that a lot of things which we thought is a taboo without people being traveling or interacting in person, now it is pretty much possible to do it with just virtually logging into the meetings like we are doing now. So this situation is going to impact our careers, how we grow, and how we move forward. The digital platforms are going to be bigger impact on all of us, and what it means that a lot of digital practices has to be accelerated because for the short term there is a lot of pressure on revenue, because revenue has suddenly terminated or has reduced because a lot of organizations have either their order book reduced because people are either postponing. There are two aspects of it, and that is where I am linking finance and engineering now. So for example, ours is an engineering consultant organization, and what it means that we need to be on the project site, and we are advisory to a lot of organizations who build high-rise buildings or who build town planning, who does the lot of construction work is going on. So how do we consult, and the engineers still need to travel to those locations. So what it means that there will be people who will still be on the locations once the crisis gets over, but majority of the people who are in the supporting role in the finance facility and the other administrative work like project administrators, project controllers, and they can remotely work still. So earlier, what used to happen, the project managers used to travel, their teams used to travel to different location, and as a result of which they could conclude things over a particular place, meeting in person. They can meet over the dinner, or they can meet over the lunch, and then things used to get completed in that fashion. But now it will be all remote. So one leg of which is basically an enabling function will be all remote, and only the person required to travel whose job cannot be performed without physically inspecting the site where the work is going on. So what is going to play a bigger role is technology like 5G or technology like digital twins, where you can actually use technology to replicate the model. So earlier, what used to happen in the engineering field is if something has to be built, uh, before that a prototype used to get built, or a physical prototype used to get built, maybe to the scale, not to the scale, but maybe 100 times lesser than the scale, or 10,000 times lesser than the scale. Now that dependency has moved from the physical process actually to a process which is more digital. So if I have to suggest that, okay, so for taking an example, not of the engineering field, but as an individual user, earlier when you used to buy a home for yourself, you will go to the site. They will first take you to the demo room where they will explain you the project plan, and possibly there will be a model placed in the room where you will see the model and say that, okay, there will be a park here, there will be other amenities here, etc. Now post pandemic, what will happen is that 3D model will be available to you online. For example, you can check Google Earth. It can already show you a lot of places where you can actually see the 3D view of the place you want to visit. So that kind of technology is going to get a boost. And another technology from the telecom perspective, which is going to bring that radical difference, is the 5G. So companies like Huawei, companies like in US, etc., they are going to build on that bandwidth and technology and infrastructure around that, which can actually produce a model equivalent, and you can actually, if not, if you have seen Star Trek in your childhood days, then those kind of things where you were actually teleporting. So teleporting still is a few hundred years away from us, but at least you will be able to see the image of the person sitting in US right here next to you because of the technology change, and you can have a meeting with them as if you are sitting in the same room. So that is the impact that technology is going to have. And all the models, the demonstrations where you used to go to the client's place and physically see them is going to change a big way. So that is how we are going to reset the entire thing. And it's not going to be very easy. So the next slide I have put in, it talks about what it is going to be as we mature in the organization, and as we mature and we grow into a new world, which is quite different and drastically different from what it was maybe 10 years back, or maybe before the pandemic. So what is going to happen is we are going to be, so for example, let me at least go 2 months back. When we started working from home, people were in the denial mode, or they were in the shock, and they said that this is not possible. A lot of people had network issues. There were people who does not have an office setup at home, and there was a lot of challenge that we were facing. People were missing their key performance indicators, and there were a lot of denial that this model will not work. Slowly, over a period of next 1 month, people started to accept things, and they said, okay, this is working, but some things need to change. And then uh, I'm just giving one example. So when you were working from home earlier before the pandemic, and there were your family members in the home, and you were on a say call with the client, and somebody in your family just get into the room and was visible on the camera, right? So it used to be very, very unprofessional to see a family member just walking in behind you, and you can see them on the camera. So that was a very taboo. There is a famous BBC video where a delegate is talking, and two of his toddler kids walks into the room, and it was uh, broadcasted live on BBC. So now it has become acceptable. There is some background noise where your family is talking, etc., is becoming. So we are getting into the acceptance mode, into a very simple. I am giving you a very simple example, but we are getting into a very acceptance mode around the ways of working. So what will happen over the period of time, and that is the last stage that my slide talks about, is the fourth one after the acceptances. I understand, and that's okay. So we are going to settle into the new normal very soon. In couple of months, all these trial and errors which we are doing with different technologies, maybe a couple of quarters later, will become settled down, and things that I have talked about, which start evolving more strategically, like the demonstration to the client with a different feature, with live examples, a virtual baby. Say, for example, a bridge needs to be built somewhere in the world. So through the technology, it will be possible to have a demonstration of how the bridge looks like. The 3D model will be live. You can rotate that model, touch that model, and online make changes to that model to suit and understand the customer's requirement. Now, so what is going to accelerate and what is going to become different is technology. So in the new world that we are talking about, technology is going to be our friend. and it is going to have a lasting impact on all our careers. And that is exactly what I am now trying to correlate with engineering world and finance. So how does the finance work today? Uh, it has been a decade that we decade or more that there is a concept of shared services that has evolved over a period of time. So it has been couple of decades now. It started in 1990s with the outsourcing world, where we said that there are three phases in the outsourcing world that has happened since 1990 and in 2020. So in from 1990 to say maybe early 2000, there was a concept where we were saying that um, come for come for cost and stay for quality. That was the first stage where we were most of the finance work or the work whether through the engineering sector were getting transferred to India, and this was happening because of the cost arbitrage factor. Now from 2020, no, sorry, from 2000 to around 2010, there was a concept which evolved, which says that come for cost but stay for innovation. So we started innovating using a lot of technology. There were things like robotic process automation which comes into place. There were people started to connect different processes and started to give the end-to-end value efficiencies to them, bring in new concept to the processes, etc. So engineers used to build something, and then we used to kind of give them the financial data around it. Slowly it became from manual work to automated work, and it slowly become more automated. So at one point of time there was a lot of manual intervention. You used to extract a lot of data from somewhere with an engineering data, like say for example a house is built or a building is built, and how much of this require what kind of material, and we used to kind of give a commercial value for that by putting it either in an Excel sheet or something like that. And then we started using bots around it, or a technology around it. So we were actually not giving or calculating anything, but any change on the front end in terms of materials, say for example brick and mortar change, or they were changing any kind of steel frames that they were using. So any change will directly reflect and show them that what how it will impact on the financial side. So that was because we were on the back end innovating and using technologies like bots and analytics, etc., in early 2010. From 2010 and now going forward, there is another concept that has come in, which is come for innovation but stay for ecosystem. So we have now started creating the ecosystem. So ecosystem as in, so with the technology advancement, we can actually look at their clients ERP system. What is the enterprise resource planning tool that they are using? How is it working? What plugins can be used around it? Analytics have become more stronger. There are predictive analysis that has been done. We have started to look into their core business rather than just focusing on their back end. So earlier we were, say for if I'm talking about the engineering and the finance world, our role was restricted to very basic, which is basically saying that okay, if you do this, what will impact it has on the model and how the commercials will impact. Then we used to manage their budget through the projects, what projects they are doing, and how much budget they have allocated to each phase, and how things are happening, and what it will how it will impact overall the project, and used to guide them that whether we are still profitable, not profitable, etc. Now what we are saying that is, if you do certain things, then you can actually increase your revenue. The technology has started to relate and cross referencing customers across, because all the data across the geographies are available, and we are cross referencing the customer selling one thing to other. And this has been driven by finance, because they are using this data to kind of give more insight to the front end project managers or the engineers by saying that, okay, you used this technology in a particular project which yielded you this result. If you replicate the same product and technology across in a different project, it will give you different results. And then it has started to cross reference the customers from one perspective to the other, so as to say that if a particular customer is wanting to build a building where he wants more space, then you try to explore that what material can you use, etc., and what kind of model you can build. So those building of models, which was earlier done by the engineers, now actually can be done on the back end with the impact of commercials right away available. So we are trying to build an ecosystem around what the core activities, and the finance have gone from just being a supportive function to being a more being a function which is more on the front end, and they have become more of a business partner rather than just a back end process operations sort of. So the role over the period of time has evolved, with we becoming more a business partner roles rather than just a processor role or providing financial information to them. So that is how the industry has evolved, and that is what I am going to share with you in our next slide. So, so you can see the slide here. We talk about how the COVID-19 has impacted globally and how the things has evolved. So this was a survey which was done by SSON, Shared Service Organization Network, recently, and they said that 52% of the GBS Global Business Services model will become increasingly digitized in the coming years. And 24% of all the finance world is becoming more important because they have now become critical to the survival of the front end organization, because all the data has come to them and they have suddenly become a powerhouse through the data, and there's a new value add which is I'm talking about. So the value driver that the finance function is now providing is through the use of the automation, the technology that I have talked about, the data that I have talked about, and then all the functions which finance function or the HR function or the uh, enabling function which were scattered all across have gone all together in name of shared services. There is lot of tools available in terms of automation, and then there is lot of data that is available to us, which is basically providing a new and unexpected value driven for the organization. And all this data where we can do the analysis and paralysis of the entire value chain has suddenly become important. So the engineers which were only focusing on earlier about their designs, which are using the technologies like CAD and CAM, has have suddenly to look into data analytics as well. So from the career perspective, if you aspire to be an engineer, if you become an engineer, or even if you are not an engineer, uh, as a data scientist, you can actually get into the engineering organization, because you have to provide them with these two value adds which they as an engineer alone can't do it. So automation and data. So there is suddenly a need of data and automation put together, which is giving them a new value driver in the engineering field. So engineers alone are not enough. They are using this as a competency now, and as a business partner, we not only provide them the financial analysis, but also give them a lot of insight into the data, the real time. So earlier the data used to be very static. They need one sort of data, and we used to provide that information and data to them. Now with the change, this data is becoming the front end, and all their moves across have to be built basis on the data. So if you want to build a career now, there are a lot of options available where you don't need to be an engineer, but you can still enter into an engineering field. Like I am doing the back office operations for an engineering consultant organization because I have the teams that I drive, which is an automation team. There is a data team that provides and churns lot of data and information. Then there is teams like robotic process automation, which can look at the possibility of making processes efficient, etc. And important thing is RPA, for example, in the next slide that I am showing, RPA is no more looked as a tool. It is not a tool anymore. Robotic process automation, it actually has become a competency as such. And you see that 41% of the organization across the globe is now driving it as a competency rather than just a tool. It is inherited in the organization, and people are trying to see how we can use the technology so that people and the resources that are introduced or that are involved can also talk to the people and do the more business partnering role rather than just crunching data, because crunching data now can be done through the robots. So that is what I have to share, but I open the floor now for the questions. If you ask questions, if you have anything that I have not covered or like to understand more, I'll be willing to answer those questions. Okay, so the first question is, okay, sixth slide. Just a minute. Okay, I am sharing the sixth slide now, but in the interim, I will answer the first question: how COVID-19 has impacted the finance department. So the pressure has come on finance a lot, because what has happened due to the COVID crisis is the revenue or the order book has suddenly gone down, because lot of project either has been postponed or has been cancelled, as a result of which the top line has gone down. So in order to ensure that we maintain the profitability, there is lot of impact which finance has to deliver by giving the same quantum of profitability with a lower revenue. So for example, now people are looking in different strategy. For example, if you see around and read a lot of articles around how ways of working, so most of the organizations are now planning to at least have 20 to 30% of their populations work from home, because that will save a lot of cost for them in the long run in terms of real estate. They don't have to invest in big offices. They don't need to have, say, maybe head office in a longer run. And some of the organizations like TCS are already talking about in 5 years, they have 75% of all their workforce working from home. Some of the organizations like Fugitic has decided that they will permanently work from home, and it's a Japan-based organization, so they will permanently work from home, and it will provide a lot of opportunity from the employee perspective as well. Because now if I have a resource and I have an organization in Gurgaon, but I happen to explore a resource which is sitting in Mumbai and not willing to relocate, I can actually hire that resource and they can work from home for me, which was not possible earlier, because there was a misconception that the resource has to be co-located in a particular location. But that's has opened up, so it has lot of advantage for the resources. And from the finance perspective, we are exploring new possibilities on how do we reduce cost by making people work from home. The real estate cost is a big cost, and it contributes to around 20% of all the costs that we have. So that will come down. As a result, the finance is getting impacted. Also, as I talked, there is lot of thirst on digitization in finance now, so that the day-to-day work can be done through bots and through technology, and finance people can only contribute or should contribute as a more of a business partner role rather than a processing role. Hope that answers. Now moving to the next question, which sector will be the first to adopt the potential of data analytics as mechanical engineers? Which industry should I choose for my career? Okay, so uh, as a mechanical engineer, you can still go for say consulting firms. So there are big opportunities in the consulting domain or the engineering consultant. You don't really need to be a typical mechanical engineering working out of plants and sites. But if you combine your mechanical engineering degree with some of the data analytics courses and predictive analysis courses, etc., you can actually do a back office operations job and support the organization overall without actually getting into onto the site. So data has provided that flexibility. So there's a disadvantage with the finance people that they don't understand engineering it well. But if somebody is an engineer, a mechanical engineer, and he gets into the data analytics and digital transformation strategies, etc., then he can provide a different dynamics in the consultancy. He can be a front end to a prospective customer and talk to them about how the data and the engineering side combined can brings in a lot of value to the organization as such. So that is you can actually choose a lot of data analytic fields, data mining tools, get yourself skilled on that, and then you can get into a better opportunity. Hope that answers. Okay. Any other question that I can answer? Okay. So language is a unique competency, and in the global scenario where we interact with a lot of people across the globe, it can come very handy along with your MBA and engineering that people have done. So if you are Japanese bilingual and pursuing MBA, you can actually what specific do you want in marketing? Because there's a lot of options in marketing also through the digital platform. So there are courses available where you can actually learn to do a lot of things using platforms. So for example, if you were to see 10 years back, then the top organizations were organizations like Microsoft or like Ford. But now things have changed. Some of the bigger organizations like Apple are using digital platforms. For example, Nike were a shoe industry in the shoe industry by but putting a chip in the shoe. They have become a digital organization where they are not only selling the shoes, but they are also selling health to the people because there is a lot of data that get produced when somebody wears a shoe with a chip, and that data can be analyzed and a lot of support advisory can be given on the health, what physical activities people are doing. Biggest example is, for example, Uber. Uh, Uber does not own any of the cars that they run. They are just an app and a platform firm, but they have suddenly become global. Similarly, there is another example, which is Airbnb. They don't own any hotels. They don't own any guest house. Now, but they are doing big because they are able to market themselves, and people in the marketing field are involved in selling their units, selling their concepts, selling data to a lot of people. So how, if you have booked an Airbnb apartment, you will see that while you book the Airbnb apartment, they will show you the data on how the customers have rated it. And that is all done through the marketing tools, which is now becoming digital. So that way you can mold your career from just selling to become online marketer and using digital platforms and strategies. So there's a lot of scope for you in that line. Next question is, can I work in share market as a fresher? Yes, definitely you can work in the share market as a fresher. Share market has also not been left alone. It has also been touched by the digital to an extent, large extent. Now, all the shares are in the form of DMATs, and there is trading which is happening online. So there are lot of organizations or large broking firms which has gone online, and hardly there are people who actually get into the physical share market like Dalal Street or any other places. So you can, as a fresher, work as a share in the share market. But again, to make yourself competent, you need to understand how the system works, because people are now exploiting the loopholes of the system, and you also need to understand bit of on the commercial side on how the share script work, how do you read the share script, how do you read the performance of the companies, etc. So if you inculcate some of those skills, you can actually become and work in the share market. The next question is how the present scenario can impact the employment of banking and finance department. Are we still hiring, or employment is on will decrease? I think in a midterm, the employment will increase. Currently, there is a lot of people on caution because they are still evaluating the impact of on revenue because of the COVID. But I think in 5 to 6 months of time, the scenario will be clear. People would have adjusted into the new ways of working, and they would have drawn a new order book and say that this is a adjusted order book. So the hiring is will increase for sure. Currently, we are hiring at around 70% of the original planned hiring, but that is going to increase and become 100% more in 5 to 6 months, as soon as we get more clarity on how the world is reacting and where the COVID crisis is taking us. Now, to answer or add further on this, there will be lot of focus on offshoring in the coming years and months, because people have realized that they cannot survive with all their basic fundamental jobs of finance being done from the local location, which is quite expensive compared to if they offshore. And then they also get a benefit of shared services, automation and data driven services, which I shared as a new value services with the shared services providing. So there is going to be a rise in the offshoring, and there will be a lot of opportunities available in 5 to 6 months of time. Okay, so the next question is how does finance department plan for overhead cost, specifically in construction where the revenue pattern is not stable? Okay, so that is why there is a lull as of now, because people are understanding that what impact does it have on their revenue. There is no clear trend emerging as of now, because people are still trying to be resilient and coming out of the predictions that they have done earlier, that they will reach certain revenue figures and there will be X number of profitability for them during this period of time, which has now all gone for a toss because last 4 or 5 months has been badly impacting their revenue, and there has been lot of hiring which was done in Q1, and people are now getting laid off because organizations see that their orders are getting cancelled and they are not able to maintain the revenue around it. But soon, as we settle into the new normal, people are going to realize and understand that 20, 30, 40% of their people are going to work from home, which is going to cut some of their major overheads, specifically around travel and fixed office cost, etc. And also from the engineering perspective, they don't need to visit a lot of sites, and there will be models which will be available which they can use, in fact, to demonstrate their capabilities to the client. So all this going to take time, say maybe 6 to 1 year, but then people are going to understand the new dynamics, and hence the overhead cost in the construction industry is going to stabilize over a period of time, and people are going to understand what their revenue model will look like. Next question is, do you think specializing with will be compulsory in the digital field? Yes, definitely. So there will no people with jack of all trades and king of none will not be entertained in the coming time, and digital digital readiness will be the key. So there is a saying which goes like that. So in the 21st century, the illiterate people will be those who are not equipped with digital skills. So irrespective of what field you are in, you need to have the digital competencies for you to prosper, because that is going to take away lot of credit, and lot of things will be moving into the digital platform. So whether you are a finance graduate, you are a commerce graduate, whether you have done MBA, or whether you are an engineer, you need to have a digital competency for you to succeed in your career. That's for sure. Next question is, working on the retail sectors in front end operations is better scope for me in finance and banking. So I'm not clear on the question. What does it mean? So maybe if you can be more specific, I can answer, but in the interim, I will take next question. So what will be the impact of labor sector due to this change? For example, companies who are not able to invest in automation and highly dependent on labor. Okay, so uh, I think there are various models that is evolving, where either companies can own their tools of digitization, or they can get into a partnership or use the vendors for digital optimization. And then there are large categories of tools that is available. So there can be tools which are very, very expensive, and only large organizations can implement them. But then there are plug-in tools and other tools which are tier 2 tools, tier 2 tools, I will say, which is also available to enable people to get into the digitization mode. But you can't just be a labor intensive organization and work, because you will be blown away by the competition. So if you are not digitally equipped, your organization is not using the digital strategies, then your price will not be very competitive as compared to the other companies in the market. So digitization is not a choice, it has become a mandate. Okay, so next question is, what is the scope of direct selling marketing in future? Thank you. So direct selling, of course, is also going digital. So I mean, 20 years back, when you were to log on to any online platform or the internet, or even 10 years back, you will hardly see any advertisement while you are browsing the net. But that has changed. And all the things that you are doing on the internet are being tracked now. So for example, if I am using Amazon or checking some product on the Amazon, and suddenly I'm checking some other site, maybe Google, or browsing on the internet for some other reason, then suddenly those products appear while I browse. It is because the data has been artificially linked, and there is an intelligent process behind the scene which is basically following what I am visiting, where I am going, how much time I am spending on particular items, etc. All this are being tracked through the digital tools. So the direct selling marketing in future is purely going to be very, very digital. You are soon going to see that in next couple of years, the telephone callers or the direct calling or the cold selling will stop, and everything will get into a digital mode. So you will be, your home will become digital, with your everything around you will be digital, and whatever you do are already getting tracked. So uh, I mean, even if your medicines are getting to get over, somebody, something like Siri, or maybe something like Alexa is going to order that for you, because they are in your home, they are reading your data, they are understanding you, and you can already create list of things on them. So it is going to get digital, and the digital marketing is going to be the in thing in the future. It is going to take away whatever direct selling we are doing, or for that matter, whatever we are doing. I was reading statistics which says that in next 10 years, 60% of all the jobs that exist today will not exist, because the digital technology is going to drastically change that process of what we are doing today. So anybody who's graduating today has to ensure that they look into the future and not look just what is happening today, because by the time you graduate in 3 4 years, there's a lot of jobs which is going to get redundant. The overall, in next 10 years, we are, because of the digital interventions, there will be 72 million job losses will happen over the world, but the digitization will create 100 million more jobs in next 10 years. So that is how even the digital marketing is going to change, and direct selling will not be the in thing in next couple of years. Okay, so last 4 minutes, so I can still take few questions. What else is important to learn with finance? Okay, so that is the area of interest. So you can become, with the finance field has evolved. It does not really mean accounting anymore. The finance is also interlinked with digital things. So it has to be, finance has to be seen with the data driven fields, or data driven things. So data analytics, data scientist, robotic process automation, analytics, predictive analysis, artificial intelligence, all those things you can combine with finance to become a better skilled employee and become valuable to the organization, because lot of future things is going to be very, very data specific. Everybody will be expected to have a metadata thinking, which means that they will be very, very focused on what is the source of data, how the data is, one data is linked to the other data, and that is how the conventional finance is going to get over, and we are going to get into more of emerging finance, which talks about finance using the data in the form of product, region, customer evaluation, engineering, medical sciences, etc. So everything is going to be linked with data. So whatever you do, data is going to take away large credit. So whatever credentials you have today, you will have to equip yourself with the data technologies and learn the data, how to use the data, how to use the platform services. If you are on the marketing side, you need to build a strategy for digital platforms, strategies for success, etc. So all those things that you need to learn along with just what you are doing as the basic degree. Okay, how automation? Tell us about the career options in the fintech industry. I don't understand that question. What is fintech industry? But meantime, I'll take another question. How automation will help finance billing department like order to cash process? Okay, so that's an interesting question. So currently as well, all order to cash process has largely become automated. 70% of all the billings gets into an automatic mode. All the big players in the industry are now billing through the automatic channels. So there is no manual interventions as of now, and the billing department size has reduced drastically over a period of last 10 years, and it has highly become automated. Only people who are left in the industry on the billing front are the credit controllers, who still need to call to the customer to collect the money, but the billing has largely become automated. Which is the best place to learn about data analytics? There is lot of places. There is lot of courses available, and lot of colleges, lot of institutes, either online or in-person courses, residential courses, etc. So you can explore basis on what you want to do. Data analytics also is a big thing. There are courses which range to around 3 to 4 years, and there are courses which just range to around 3 months. So you need to explore, but there are a lot of options available in the market to do the data analytics. Okay, so time is running out. We are 1 minute already overboard from what is scheduled. So I take your leave. Thank you for participating and asking these interesting questions. I am hopeful that this is helpful, and if you have any other questions, then you can ask your faculty members, and if there is any help, then they can reach out to me. Thank you, everyone. Take care.